I've always enjoyed smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't bring it with me when I'd fly from city to city because the dogs pick it up at the airports in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So every city I knew where to score.
Uh-huh.
And I got in late to London. I went to this nasty area that I used to go to score.
You're just buying right on the street?
Yeah, buying on the street. Jamaicans.
Uh-huh.
Usually hash. And so these two big black guys said, yeah, we got something for you. Come over here. Walked down a few side streets a little far away. It was really dark, and he hands me some stuff, and I go, oh, come on, this is nothing. So stupid to be arguing with these two big black guys at 1 o'clock in the morning on a side street.
Was it even weed they were giving you, or was it something
was some
else?
hash.
Uh-huh.
And one of them had an empty beer bottle, and he broke it on the gutter, and he pointed it at me, and he said, "You're gonna buy this?" Something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I said, hey man, I don't want any trouble. And whenever I used to go out to score dope, I would never take a wallet. I would put like 10 pounds in one pocket and 20 pounds in another pocket. And
Uh-huh.
I just kept throwing the money out of my pants and backed away and turned around and took off. But that was kind of, I thought I was going to get cut up.
Did you have some incident with dogs once in an airport?
Yeah, I got busted with dope. The dog coming through the Bahamas, going from one. I had to fly out to Fort Lauderdale and make a contact there.
Uh-huh.
And I kept some dope, and they got me for $5,000. And every time, and I used to come in and out of the States all the time with like 5-6 cases of underwater equipment.
Uh-huh.
And they'd pull me aside and go through everything. It was horrible. And then after 5 years, it just stopped.
I remember you had a good line. You said, dogs love me, when the dogs were coming over to you.
No. Well, whatever.
You don't remember that?
If I remember $5,000 being
Uh-huh.
poor.
And then you were...
Bob didn't have any of these things happen to him.
I mean, Bob told me more straight stuff about the family and growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he would tell me any of the really juicy stories about him. Were you ever embedded with drug dealers or terrorists?
I did a cocaine story in '82. It was a huge money maker for me. Made over $100,000. At that time, it was just sort of getting off. And we had contacts with Galit's family in Bolivia.
Uh-huh.
So after waiting a couple of weeks and paying a few $1,000s, I was taken into the jungle, into a cocaine factory, and I filmed it. And then I had the contacts for the police side of it through my family there too, so I could go around with the narcotics squad and shoot that side of the story. I had this beautiful, beautiful story on cocaine.
Did that feel dangerous?
Not really. No. I think it was more dangerous when I went with Gustavo Goretti in Peru in the 90s doing a big cocaine story.
What happened there?
We were in some jungle areas and a couple of miles downriver. The Sendero Luminoso had garroted, with wire, killed
Yeah.
people, and hung them up in the tree.
You saw that?
I didn't see it. No, they told us about it. We were guarded when we were there. We had people with shotguns and stuff. But he had amazing. He was a famous journalist in Peru. He left because he was going to be assassinated by Fujimori. Now he's back there. He's got a big position with his own news organization. I met him when he did a Neiman at Harvard in Germany. Quite a character. Leo's friend. George's friend.
And then with Leo let you watch how he trained security.
I did a lot of shoots
guy.
on Leo. James Bond stories.
Like, what does that mean?
These people that, they would make special cars for South America.
Uh-huh.
The tires were bulletproof. They had, you could shoot your guns out of there. They were bomb-proof to a certain extent. With these armored cars, you just build a bigger bomb and you defeat it. But they sold a lot of these. So he had a friend that did that down in Florida, and another guy that did different sort of James Bond shit. And that was a good selling story. But the best was the first one in El Salvador. That sold everywhere. The Telegraph in London. It was a big selling story because terrorism was so huge at that time, 87.
Yair talked about how generous you were and are, and you would just pay for people to go travel with you.
Well, that's how I choose to spend my money, and that's traveling was really my life. And one of the great pleasures is having close friends, and you share it with them. So on the land stories, I wouldn't, but on the underwater stories like Yair, because he dives and he's so good to have along on a trip. People like that, or David Friedman, an old friend of mine, and would travel with me whenever I'd go to shoot a story in Latin America, in Brazil, or Costa Rica, because of his fluent Spanish and his very pleasant way. He could have fishermen do things for me that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And then I had this great assistant for 25 years from a special unit in the Israeli Navy.
Who's that?
Asha. Who was blessed with great common sense.
And what is was Amos in the Mossad?
Amos was considered to be the most elite unit in the Israeli army. Sayeret Matkal. It's a commando unit that's directly under the chief of staff in the Israeli army. And they do all the special jobs, most of which you never hear about. He was in Entebbe, and he was the second person through the door shooting. He was a good soldier, Amos.
How much of the dangerous stuff that you did would you tell Rainey and Nate?
Well, I would always downplay the danger. Because my mother always thought I was doing things that were dangerous. And, but I couldn't hide the stories because they would see them in the magazines. I was very proud of being published in all these big magazines, and would show them the stories, and especially I'd show my father the checks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. I discovered a way to make money in journalism just by being independent and going after a world market. So instead of selling the story once, I'd sell the story 10 and 15 times and get paid 10 or 15 times. That was the only way to make a nice living.
And so you shot like some nude models for Penthouse, and then you shot...
I did everything. I tried everything once.
You shot world leaders too, right?
I shot President Mubarak right after Sadat was assassinated.
Did you say you did that out in the Sinai?
No, I did it in Cairo at the palace. And I shot Shimon Peres when he was prime minister. And I did a Penthouse pet once because I was selling a lot of stories to Penthouse. All the adventure stories. They paid 3 times what Life would pay. I get a nice payday from them.
When we were driving through the Sinai, I don't remember very well, but I remember you said, "Oh, I photographed some guy right here," and just like we passed a rock or a peak.
You know what I did once was there's a big sand slope in a certain area of Sinai, pure sand, beautiful. And I was with the American ambassador to Israel doing a story about him for People magazine because he was a diving fanatic. And so I took a picture of him on a sand slope, surrounded by sand. But other than that, I can't remember.
Did you have adventures in the Sinai? Did you ever feel in danger in the Sinai?
Never felt endangered. Always safe. Safe as could be.
A lot of your time there was on fishing boats, right?
Well, in the Sinai on fishing boats is one thing, but I'm talking about inside the Sinai on hiking trips, on desert trips with jeeps.
You did both?
Yeah. Mostly my work was in the water, but it was a wonderful way. You can't dive every day for a month, so you take a break and dry off.
You told me a while ago some of the techniques you would use to get the shark footage. Like you would go drag them behind the boat to make them woozy and then let them go and get down there.
Oh, yeah, that was a nice little trick.
You would do night diving? Did you say you would turn on a light at night and that would attract things?
Yeah.
That could be dangerous?
Look.
Or scary?
It wasn't sport diving, it was professional diving. So you'd always sort of try to go for the edge. You want to do something that hasn't been done before. And to do that meant putting yourself into potentially hazardous situations.
Yeah.
Going very deep or diving in open ocean at night. It's a strange feeling when you jump off of a boat in the middle of the ocean and there's no bottom and it's pitch black. Well, you get used to it and it's fine, you're comfortable, or you go down very deep and you're completely drunk from the narcosis. It's dangerous, but like I said, I always did these things carefully. I had a great safety diver with me, whose first and most important job was my safety. And I felt very comfortable.
Was that the same person?
Asher, yeah. He was in the Navy SEALs of Israel. The Shayetet. These are the 2 units in Israel. The Shayetet and the Sayeret Matkal.
Who was the one who was the sheriff in the Sinai for a while?
Amos. For 3-4 years.
how did you get in touch with all these guys? These hardcore Israeli army guys? Mossad guys?
Just happened that way.
You said your judo teacher introduced you to Leo because it was his brother?
Yeah.
Was that like the first one?
Well, I had an assignment for National Geographic to do a story on the field school for children, nature field school that educated them about nature in the Sinai and the Bedouin culture in the Sinai. And I stayed at the field school, and that's where Amos was living. And that's how I met Amos. But he was tied into that whole group of people through Galit up in Jerusalem. Hey, we're doing pretty good. What time we got?